Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host, Eddie, and in tonight's video, I thought I would be doing, this is a pretty late film review, almost a year late, and this is again a very delayed film review, possibly the most delayed film review I've done so far, and I wish I had done it opening weekend, and I wish I had seen the movie opening weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't see it until several months later. But in honor of the free screenings happening across the country at AMC movie theaters, the screenings of Get Out, I thought I would do my film review for it. I finally saw the film myself. I actually watched it last fall. I watched it this past September, and fortunately, I was able to go those. How many months was that? Yeah, wow, no, 7 months. Yeah, 7 months from February 2017 to that September without having anything ruined or revealed or spoiled for me. So for that, I am very, very grateful. And I finally watched it. And in fact, I just watched it again for a second time just a few minutes ago. I couldn't get into one of the screenings because obviously they were all full up. So I just rented a copy from Redbox. And oh, what a film, what a film. Now, before I begin, of course, please be warned, this is a spoiler-filled film review. Even though the movie has been out for about a year now, I'm sure there's still many people who haven't seen the movie yet. So if you are one of those people, if you haven't seen the movie and you would like to, in fact, I highly recommend it. Do not keep watching or listening to this video, as I will be going into spoilers and discussing story details from Get Out. This is a big one to watch out for. Also, secondly, I've got the hood on my head mostly because I'm having a really, really bad hair day. I spent the entire day today with a baseball cap on, and when I took it off, my hair just did not look right. So I apologize for how weird this looks, but believe me, it's for good cause. Anyway, so again, Get Out spoilers start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What a movie. What a phenomenal, phenomenal film. You know, I should have done this video a long, long, long time ago, and I'm really beating myself up over it for not posting this sooner, and I really wish I had. But I was inspired to, after watching this film for only a second time, and just really watching it and paying attention to all the details that I missed the first time around, and just the overall film itself. I'm just like, God, this is seriously one of the best movies I have seen in a really, really long time. This deserves an EdWord film review. So, I think one of the things that I liked about this movie so much is how well written it is. Just the story itself. You know, you take a pretty scary concept of like a black guy going over to his white girlfriend's family estate for the weekend to get to know everybody. And then, of course, things are not as they seem. And then he discovers something truly sinister and evil. And then it's a fight for survival. And that's essentially what this movie was. You know, this movie, Get Out, was one of those movies where I heard nothing but good things about it. Seriously, every single person who I knew had seen it had nothing but high praise and good things to say about it. This is friends, family members, coworkers, anybody I bumped into. I would ask anybody who's told me that they saw Get Out, they loved it or they really, really liked it. And I never got around to seeing it in theaters, unfortunately. I did rent it many months later, and boy, did it not disappoint. It lived up to the hype big time. I just remember feeling so blown away upon my first viewing. I was just like, oh my God, what a movie. What a movie. That was so good. It was so well done. And it's so riveting and unnerving in the best ways possible. And I still feel that way after a second viewing. I mean, this time I was able to pay extra close attention to the stuff that I missed the first time, like how she stands up for him to the cop when he's trying to take down their information. And then as it's revealed, because I was reading trivia for the film after I had seen it for the first time, in one of the plot points, the spoiler plot points, it points out that she wasn't actually standing up for Chris Rose. She was just making sure a paper trail wasn't being left behind so that he was seen or last reported in the area because she knew what was going to happen to him or what she wanted to have happen to him. So shit like that you miss, and then you read about it, and then you watch the movie, and you're like, oh my God, of course it all makes so much sense. Like, that's why he said this, that's why she said that, that's why this happened, that's why they looked like that. I mean, all this stuff that you miss the first go around, and then you read about it, and then you watch it a second time, and you're like, it's all there right in front of us, and we didn't see it until the last minute. So I like that. I really like that. I like movies that make you go back and rewatch it and rethink a few things. This movie, like I said, the thing that I liked the most about it was the story. It was an incredibly well written, suspenseful, psychological thriller. I almost want to call it. I do want to refer to it as a horror movie, but for some reason, I'm more drawn to call it a thriller, definitely a suspenseful thriller, simply because it's like it's got some scary elements to it, but at the same time, it's more unsettling. In my opinion, it's more unsettling, unnerving, and uncomfortable like a psychological thriller would make you rather than a horror movie would make you. But that's just my personal take on it. I'm sure many people feel the same way about horror movies, where they feel unsettled, unnerved, and uncomfortable after watching them, depending on the genre and the horror movie itself, of course. That's just my personal takeaway from it. However, I do get a lot of horror elements from this movie a second time around because Jordan Peele said that he was inspired by numerous classic horror films, and the one that stood out to me was Night of the Living Dead. And as I was watching this, I kept that in mind. And I could definitely see a lot of similarities and a lot of influences on that. Black male leading character, house out in the country. He's not familiar with his surroundings. He's stuck with people he doesn't really know, and then he's forced to adapt and to survive in this horrible, appalling circumstance and situation. And it's a fight of life and death. And all of those things could be applied to both Night of the Living Dead and Get Out, at least in my opinion. And that just made me like the movie even more. Not like, love the movie even more. I mean, this movie is so damn good. It's one of the most original films I've seen in years, and not only is it an incredibly well-written story, but my takeaway from it is that this movie is directly or indirectly, now this is entirely left up to our perception or our view of things, but from my point of view, in my opinion, this film is really about racism. And if it's not about racism, it's at least about preconceived racial profiling. So to either call you could either say it's about racism, or you could say it's about preconceived racial profiling, because in this film there's a lot of people who are indirectly racist without trying to be racist, but they are being racist. And I think that is a real life result of preconceived racial profiling. And I'm sure at some point in all of our lives, well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have been guilty of that at some point. And quite honestly, I think people are truly unaware of it. Some people are definitely more aware of it, the more nastier types. But, some people are truly blissfully unaware that they're that they're racially profiling someone. And just the way Chris stands and takes it all throughout the entire film, up before shit starts to hit the fan. He's polite, he nods, he smiles. It's just like, God, this guy is taking so much shit from so many people right now, and you just feel sorry for the poor guy. You really do. And that's what this movie did, and that's what Jordan Peele talked about, is that he wanted you to see things from Chris's point of view, from the main character's perspective. And one of the vocal points of this film was empathy. And I think that is exactly what this movie did for a lot of people. It made us all feel much, much more empathetic, or at least helped us understand other people's point of view in a really, really interesting way. So I don't want to try to turn this into a social issue or anything. I'm just saying, from a moviegoer's point of view, I was blown away by this film because of how good it was and how well written and how well done it was, but also some of the themes and messages that I personally received from it. Those were the things that I took away from it. Other people might have taken other things away from it. Some people may have felt uncomfortable uncomfortable or unsettled by this film for a number of different reasons, whether they're black or they're white, whatever the reasons are. I think a lot of us walked away from this movie with a different attitude or a different mindset about the film and what it's really about. I mean, one could chalk it up to just being a straightforward psychological thriller horror film, or it could be something more meaningful and perhaps deeper. But those kind of conversations you may have amongst yourselves. I'm just here to give my opinion and my review. And my review is that this was, in my opinion, the best movie of 2017. And I don't really follow or care for the Oscars or the Academy Awards. I've kind of lost interest in it over the past couple of years. However, if any movie is going to win anything this year, I would be very, very pleased and happy to see Get Out win anything, especially if it's best screenplay. Because this story was so well written, just so well told, and just so damn engaging and just so whoa in so many different ways. I would love to see this movie win best screenplay, whether it's best adapted screenplay or best screenplay, I don't know. But if any movie's going to win anything, this is the one movie that I would hope or love to see win something, simply because that, I just think this is something that we haven't seen before, and it's really got a lot of people talking in a lot of different ways, and I love that. I love it when a movie, and some movies can do this in a more positive impact or a negative impact, but the point is that when movies get us talking, I think that just makes us all more interesting, better people, because we all get to say our piece. We all get to have our opinions and whatnot. And it's just one of those things that I think is remarkable about human nature, is that we are all just so vastly different in our backgrounds, our beliefs, our ancestry, and yet here we are all talking about the same thing. So